Good morning. I'm Scott Eden, and I am a recently retired family medicine doctor. The music we sang earlier highlights the religious questions that life poses to all of us. I believe that the brain balance concept can lead us to possible answers to where do we come from, what are we, and to a secondary question, what is important for us to do? The Wonderbox story you just heard was a challenge to my worldview, my mental image of the structure of reality. And I was already questioning my Presbyterian creeds and dogmas at that time, and this certainly pushed me further. I need to give a shout out to Dan Moreau, a fellow congregant and good friend who has an extensive background in literature and writing, for all his help and encouragement. Dan and I talked about other stories where someone's worldview was challenged, and we thought of Jill Bolt Taylor's TED Talk, My Stroke of Insight. Dr. Taylor was a neuropsychiatric researcher at Harvard when at age 37 she suffered a severe brain hemorrhage that pretty much wiped out the left side of her brain for a good period of time. And I'd like to have the first slide. She could not speak or understand language, and she could not tell where her body stopped and other things started. She saw energy waves all around her, and she felt totally at peace. Happily, she largely recovered, and so we know her experience. Watching her TED Talk made me want to learn more about the left and right hemispheres of our brains. Dan informed me that Ian McGilchrist, a British psychiatrist who has a PhD in literature, was the best resource on this topic. I listened to his first book, The Master and His Emissary, and found his ideas very engaging. Those ideas pulled me into a deeper challenge to my worldview that I'm here to share today. Back in April, we had an after-hour session on the functions and characteristics of the left and right brains. The takeaways were that the hemispheres have different functions, but both are needed for us to thrive. Both hemispheres participate in most of our decisions, but they bring very different personalities to the table. Next slide, please. The left brain, which in primitive animals gives them focused attention so they can find food, is very transactional and asks, what's in it for me? The right brain, which in primitive animals watches out for predators, is relational and asks, what's the big picture? Next slide, please. In humans, the left brain focuses on details and analysis and builds a model of the world designed to maximize that individual's possessions and power. The right brain observes the world out there, manages relationships, and provides context to decisions. The right brain also manages two types of flow. It is better able to follow movement and things that literally flow. There's also the concept of flow as a state in which you're so focused on something that you forget yourself. Examples include art, music, athletics, meditation, anything creative. Flow requires persistent attention, which is the right brain's specialty, since it used to watch for predators. Next slide, please. Dr. McGilchrist feels the left brain should support the right brain, but since the right brain sees the larger picture and the context, it should be in charge of most decisions. He also feels that our culture has taught us to overvalue the transactional, what's in it for me approach over the relational, what's the big picture approach. I've had two people tell me that they consider themselves to be left brain, and does that mean that they're selfish and bad? Absolutely not. No one is just left brain or right brain, and we all need both to thrive. And it is certainly possible for someone to be very talented on one side and still have excellent brain balance. I'm I'm aware that I'm making several assumptions in this sermon. Next slide. One is that for most of us, feeling that our lives are meaningful and that we have love in our lives there are major priorities. Another assumption is that both meaning and love are based on relationships. Since meaning and love are based on relationships, they are managed by the right brain. So it is logical that the right brain should have more say than the left in making decisions. Next slide, please. I would also note that Dr. McGilchrist identified 3 things that lead to human flourishing: a relationship with nature, relationships with each other, and a relationship with something from the spiritual realm. In our after-hour session in May, we talked about what brain balance and imbalance might look like. We need both hemispheres to be at our best. A good example of ideal function of the 2 hemispheres is the creation and performance of new music. Understanding that the left brain categorizes and counts things, and the right brain sees flow is important here. The left brain is in charge of the rhythm because you can count it, and the right brain is in charge of creativity and the melody because that is flow. The creative part of the new music is performed by the right brain, which then hands the concept off to the left brain to write the music and get all the details right, and to help the musician practice the details. When the time comes to perform the music, it is handed back to the right brain because it alone sees flow and can perform the whole melody. This also explains why some people with a stutter sing beautifully. Language is in the left brain, and flow and melody are in the right brain. So the correct balance is to use your left brain to provide for your material needs and your right brain to focus on relationships and beauty and flow. It's also important to recognize that the left brain's desire for possessions and power has no brakes on it. The right brain is needed to provide context and to say, we have enough. There are several signs of imbalance with too much influence from the left brain. Next slide. They include having a lack of compassion or empathy for others because the left brain categorizes everything and to see how useful it is and sees people as things. Compassion and empathy require that you feel some connection to others, which happens in the right brain. Another sign of imbalance is being a workaholic, because overvaluing work requires that you undervalue relationships. A third sign of imbalance is trying to find meaning and love by accumulating possessions and power instead of through relationships. For a sign of too much influence from the right brain, think back to Jo Bolt Taylor's experience. Without her left brain, she could not even ask for help during her stroke. A less dramatic example of too much right brain dominance is anything that distracts a person enough to make them neglect their material needs. Part of our second after-hour session was to break up into small groups to discuss the implications of these ideas. The number of different directions that people went in these small groups showed that the brain balance idea is a lens through which you can look at almost anything, from small personal decisions to big issues such as religion, the environment, racism, politics, the economy, just about anything. Next slide. From here, I'd like to continue down the path my dream started, looking at my worldview and religion through this lens. Earlier, I said that brain balance might help us answer the question, where do we come from? On that question, Dr. McGilchrist notes a major divide among the world's religions is that some, next slide, believe they know all the details of what lies beyond the physical world we live in, and that those details are permanent and fixed, which are ideas I would call dogma, and other religions, next slide, that see the mystery of why anything exists and what was here before our universe as unsolvable and unknowable. The second group of religions believe there is an energy flow of some sort that pervades everything, is always changing and evolving, and that it influences us and we influence it. Theologians have referred to this as primordial dynamism, primordial meaning before everything, and dynamism meaning that it's always changing. The idea is that reality is an ongoing creative process that we all participate in. I have come to prefer the title cosmic dynamism because it's more relatable, so I will call it cosmic dynamism from here on. So why does it matter that the mystery of where we came from will always be a mystery? It matters because it gives you grounding for respecting the mystery of existence and the answer that I don't know and no one else does either. Many people will tell you that they're spiritual but not religious, which I think means that they reject dogma but not a sense of the spiritual. If you can embrace the concept of cosmic dynamism, it leads you to several conclusions. It means that religious dogmas may simply be a left-brain product designed to give religions power over others and are disconnected from reality. It means that the energy flows that Jill Bolt Taylor saw were real, and we are capable of experiencing them. It means that we can choose to believe that we are a part of cosmic dynamism and it's part of us, that nothing is fixed or preordained, and that we all participate in the evolution of reality. Because dogma has been presented to us by dogmatic religions as spirituality, many of us want nothing to do with spirituality. But we can reject dogma and still tap into spirituality. If we reject spirituality, we are missing out on something that can give us joy and meaning. Given the information we have, the energy flows of cosmic dynamism are the best answer I have for where do we come from. There's a song by Peter Mayer, who is best known for his song Blue Boat Home, called My Soul. Seen in the light of cosmic dynamism, it makes perfect sense. It refers to a cosmic snowstorm where each snowflake represents a galaxy, and his soul is part of the overarching dynamism. And we're going to listen to it now. Makes you think, doesn't it? The next question to address is, what are we? This is a question of identity. We are clearly, in one sense, individuals who evolved in this universe, who very much need our left brains to survive, and also appear to be energy beings that are in relationship with each other and a spiritual dynamism. I believe our Western culture has overemphasized our individuality and neglected the huge impact of our community and our environment. If any of us was born 10,000 years ago to a cave family, we would not be anything like the persons we are today. We are part of our communities and our environment, and they are part of us. So expanding our sense of identity to include them makes sense. If I feel that my community and environment are part of me, I will care more about them and take actions to help them. My actions will not be altruism, they will simply be taking care of myself. So we are individuals, but more importantly, we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The other question that brain balance can help us answer is, what is important for us to do? First, we should use our left brain to meet our material needs. Then, because the right brain sees context, we should let the right brain determine the right balance of left brain and right brain activities throughout our lifespan. What is the right mix of the left brain functions of focused attention and obtaining possessions versus the right brain functions of creativity and flow and relationships? Intentionally letting your right brain lead you will provide you the right balance. My dream was the start of my quest for religious truth. This sermon is an example of how you can use the brain balance concept to help you find answers. And how has it changed me? I used to refer to days in which I got a lot of work done as productive, which was a way for me to devalue days spent on creativity or relationships. I now prioritize creative activities and socializing with family and friends, and that is a change. Also, I have generally rejected spirituality because of my scientific background. The concept of cosmic dynamism actually resonates with me and gives me a spiritual grounding that I did not have before. I do feel that I am part of something greater than myself and that my actions are significant and impactful. If I could make a telephone call to the Dr. Eden of 40 years ago, I would tell him to recognize that he's a workaholic and he's in a job that wants him to be even more of a workaholic, and he needs to learn how to say no to increased workload. I would tell him to value fun and relationships more, to not reject spirituality, and to watch Joe Bolt Taylor's TED Talk in 2008. I hope that this brain balance concept can help you address life's hard questions and help you prioritize your relationships with nature, with other people, and the spiritual in your pursuit of meaning and love. May it be so.